Hello, America. This is Ryan Mickley, the executive producer and host of the Rebranding You podcast. The Rebranding You podcast is dedicated to helping young professionals just like you renew their minds, restore their leadership potential, and rebrand themselves for their life's work. Our distinguished guest today is Mike Kublin, President and CEO of People Tech Coaching. But before I introduce Mike, I'd like to take a minute to tell you more about People Tech and the life-changing work they're doing nationwide. Since 1996, the team of ICF-accredited leadership development coaches have worked with Fortune 500 companies and mid-sized companies to develop leaders in a variety of industries. I think you may even recognize some of People Tech's most notable clients. Have you ever heard of American Express, Merrill Lynch, or IBM? Well, of course you have. But here's what really excites me. People Tech offers a group workshop called the Leadership Journey Workshop. Now, this is something I highly recommend for young professionals. The workshop is designed to increase productivity and accountability while revealing individual leadership styles and strengths. My favorite endorsement of the People Tech Leadership Journey Workshop was from an IBM manager who said, "This is what I should have been taking years ago when I started my career in a leadership position." And that's exactly what I want you to consider as you begin your career journey. Consider pursuing as many leadership development opportunities at an early age as you possibly can. Believe me, the time you invest in leadership development now will pay off tenfold in the future. For more information about People Tech Coaching or to sign up for the Leadership Journey Workshop, please visit peopletechcoaching.com. Again, that's peopletech, T-E-K, coaching.com. Just go to peopletechcoaching.com to learn more about the Leadership Journey Workshop. You can also join the People Tech community online by liking their Facebook page, following them on Twitter, or, most importantly, follow their company on LinkedIn. Just visit your favorite social network and search for People Tech. Again, tech is spelled T-E-K. Now, it is my privilege to introduce to you Mike Kublin. Mike Kublin is the founder and president of People Tech. Prior to People Tech, Mike worked for Electronic Data Systems and American Express in information management leadership positions. Mike graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from the University of Florida and received his Master's degree in Business Administration from Nova Southeastern University. He is also involved with the Society for Human Resource Management, the International Coaching Federation, and he is on the board of directors for the Medivan Health and Community Services Organization. Mike is a member of the board of directors for the O.J. McDuffie Catch 81 Foundation. This foundation is a nonprofit public funding organization established with the objective to raise money for children's charitable causes throughout the South Florida community. So, without further ado, here is the September 2013 interview with Mike Kublin.
Thank you so much, Mike, for agreeing to do this interview with us. We specialize in helping out high school and college students develop, implement, and maintain their personal brands. And I believe that your experience will go a long way in helping our next generation become the servant leaders that they were born to be. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm very appreciative to have the opportunity to speak with you.
Well, let's start from the beginning. Take our listeners through your professional journey and how you got to where you are today.
Well, thank you. I actually grew up in South Florida, was a graduate from the University of Florida. I ended up going into information technology. Didn't really know 100% what I wanted to do, but with all the companies that were hiring at that time, it was tough to get a job. But one of the companies was EDS, Electronic Data Systems. It was an IT organization run by Ross Perot. So it was a really great first job to learn and to grow and to develop. And I was there for 3 years. I was resident 2 years in Dallas, Texas, working for Ross Perot's company and in a training program. And then another year I spent in South Florida. Took my career from there to a large corporation in South Florida, but it was based out in New York, and I worked there for another 16 years in that large corporation. And I was mainly in information technology. However, I spent 3 years in sales and marketing with the company. So I did transfer from, I always had a dream to learn how to be a very good person to deal with customers. So I went into their sales and marketing, spent 3 years there, and then they asked me to come back and run a program that connected IT people more to the customer, get them to be more people-focused. They were really good at running the computers, but how would they be with working with the people that needed all of the computer help? And what they were trying to do for the company was switch from being very behind the scenes to being very in front of the customer so they could transform technology. And when I was leading that project, I had about 150 people working for me in the IT area as well, and I got some feedback. And the feedback punched me pretty hard in the stomach. The feedback said that I was a visionary, I was great with customers, I was motivating and inspiring to the staff, and everybody really liked working with me. The feedback that they gave me, though, said it was going to really prevent me from really growing and developing and taking my career to the next level. They said I was wishy-washy and I didn't hold people accountable to behavior. Well, that really hit me hard, really started to make me think. I didn't really know what to do, so I hired a coach. Well, at that time, they weren't called coaches. They were actually called consultants. I hired a consultant. She specialized working with teams and leaders, and she showed me where my behavior was actually creating the perceptions, and it was actually creating, in some instances, acts of unfairness and different things that I really didn't know I was causing in the team or the organization because I didn't know my behavior was having that ramification. That started my career in really studying my behavior and where it was that I was taking the organization, and was I being the most effective leader and servant leader that I could be. And what I found by studying and learning and listening to different people, that I could change my behavior, and we turned the organization around from one of the hardest and most difficult value surveys to one of the best in the company. And it took a period of a couple of years, but I loved the stuff and the processes so much that I began to get certified in various leadership tools and instruments and ways of building leadership skills. And I got certified in those tools. I started to read a lot of books. I started to take various classes. And in 1996, I decided to leave that particular organization and start my own company, and the company's called People Tech. Working with people primarily in technologies was at that time the thought, but we made it a T-E-K instead of a T-E-C-H, and been very, very lucky that we did, because we deal probably about 50-50 now, 50% with IT and 50% with the rest with non-IT people. And that's our responsibility, is to help leaders, teams, and organizations be the best that they can be, and really motivate and inspire them to change and adapt and be innovative and growth-oriented and achieve the business goals they're looking to achieve in their careers.
That's great, Mike. And
I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely, it did. And to follow that up, I'd love to know your perspective on. So I heard a lot about how your behavior affected others, and it was something that you weren't very in tune to at first until you had that feedback. Having worked with some technologically advanced individuals, whether they be in programming, whether they be in internet marketing and the like, there is a communication gap that I'm seeing. And the communication gap, it's very difficult for creatives to speak to technical or analytical-minded individuals. Is that something that you learned to overcome? And if so, how did you bridge or teach your clients to bridge that communication gap between different personality types?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what our company focuses on because of that gap that existed. And the way it worked for me in particular is I started to coach individuals and noticed a trend, just like the trend that you're saying. And the trend was that a person's strengths, if they're overused, becomes their Achilles heel. The problem is they don't know what their strength is and why, when they're applying their strength, that other people have strengths and skills, abilities, and talents as well. And it's critical to not only know your own strengths, but you need to know when you're overusing them, when you're dominating too much, when you're overpowering, and when you're not listening to somebody else's strengths and what those strengths are in terms of what they're going to bring to the piece of the puzzle and to the picture so that the entire organization benefits. And so sometimes what happens is we get so used to using what we're good at, and particularly IT people, they're engineers, they're smart, they're very intellectual, they're very thinking-oriented, and they're very detail-oriented and practical and step-by-step. And what happens is they think they're protecting everything in the way in which they're doing it. And unfortunately, with a creative type coming in with a new idea, sometimes they get shut down because the person will say, well, did you think of this? Did you think of that? Did you think of that? Because IT or technical people are very, very great refiners, and they are able to use their analytical skills to find holes in things. And sometimes to a creative person, that's going to sound like they're poo-pooing the idea, when really all they're saying is you could still do the idea, we just need to consider this, 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 and this. And if you're not aware when you're doing that, you could really alienate the people that you're working with. And you can, particularly an IT person, could really shut down a business partner or a linkage group or one of their customers because they're not listening and not really hearing them before they're thinking what can't be done. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And you know, this really speaks to those that have the job already. So they're already employed somewhere, and now they're finding out, okay, how do I bridge these communication gaps? And I know People Tech does coaching for those individuals very well. But I also know that People Tech helps their clients find work. And recently, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics came out with a report in August of 2013 that the unemployment rate for people under 25 was 15.6%. And now my question to you is, what would be the best way for our unemployed youth to spend their time, talents, and treasure while transitioning through these more difficult economic times?
This is a fabulous question. In fact, it hits home very. I have two. One of my kids just graduated college, and my other is in college. And the advice that I give, and I mentor several kids that are just either have been that are in college or just graduated. And the advice that I give everybody is get involved. Get involved early in terms of your learning and your development. And by doing that, you need to join groups of what you're interested in. For example, I'm part of a business fraternity called Alpha Kappa Psi. There are many. There are others. It's been around since 1909, but it's a full, diverse organization that helps people to learn how to be part of a larger group, how to be part of small team committees, how to help an organization run, what skills, abilities, and talents do you need and do you bring to help this organization achieve its goals. And the sooner a person gets involved in learning how they can help and building their communication skills, building their relationship skills, building how they handle conflict, how they handle a difficult situation in a team, the earlier the better. Now, it may not be the business organization to get involved with. What I advise folks is get involved in something you're passionate about, an organization that represents that passion. For example, if you're into comedy, hang around with comedians and their organizations. There's associations, there's groups, there's people that need to develop the growth and innovation that community brings, and there are people that are in that community right now that are developing plans in order to take that creative energy to a new level. I say get involved with them. If it's medicine, get involved with the medics. All I'm saying is you might need to cut back a little bit on a little of the partying and get more involved in an organization that could really it's not only about your career, it's really about your life. People have a tremendous amount of fun. They learn about themselves. They learn about other people. They handle difficult situations. And the thing that's so great about getting involved and doing it early is when a new employer is going to ask you a question, give me an example of when you've led a team or an organization, you're going to have plenty of data there because you've done it. And if you haven't done it, then you're not going to be able to say anything.
Right.
Does this answer your question, Ryan?
Absolutely. And that really does speak to another question that I had about our American youth being increasingly overeducated and under-experienced. So we see so often now that we're told, okay, we need to go to college as the next step from high school. It's just something that we have to do. And then a lot of times they go right from undergraduate to graduate without ever even getting that real-world work experience. And I've seen it actually hurt to have so much education and so little experience. I see, these high 20-somethings coming out of graduate school with MBAs and very little experience, if any. And I'd love to know, and you kind of touched upon it, what your advice might be to graduates with lots of book knowledge but very little working experience.
Yeah, that's an unbelievably fabulous observation and question, and that's why I say to get involved. It's never too late. So in other words, if they didn't get involved in high school and they didn't do it in their college years, well, what can they get involved with now? What's a nonprofit or a network that they can get involved with right now to start building their practical experience about working with a group of people trying to achieve common goals? And what role do you play? What are the skills, strengths, talents, and abilities that you bring? What are the skills, strengths, talents, and abilities they bring? Be able to articulate it, because you're going to have rough waters. Be able to sit and say, what are the roughest waters that I'm in, and how did I traverse them, and how did we get out of them together? Know clearly what your vision, your mission, and your goals are, and the sooner that you start self-reflecting and learning about those things and about yourself, the sooner you're going to be able to join and get involved with organizations that link closely to where you're going. So it's not about selfish person. It's about helping yourself and helping others achieve the goals and desires that they need to grow and be successful in life and in their career.
So on an entry level, you don't necessarily see it such a bad thing that under career history or work experience, or however we'd want to say it, that maybe for those, again, with little work experience, maybe that section on your resume looks more like leadership experience, where you can kind of show different organizations that you've been involved with or the like. Is that something that you would encourage those in this particular circumstance?
100%. I would encourage people. It's never too early to join one of these organizations, one of these networks. Get it there, participate, get it on your resume early. If you're into education, American Society of Training and Development. If you're into information technology, ITSMF, HDI, there are many, many, many organizations. They want people to be involved. They need helpers. All the local organizations need you to help. Most of them have leadership committees, and they will help you, train you and teach you how to participate, how to be part, assign you projects, and you'll be right there learning. And so the sooner that you get one of these organizations on your resume and in your experience, the better it is to be able to apply practical leadership in a real-life example.
And speaking of leadership, so we're speaking to college students in this case. Is leadership development training like what you offer at People Tech? Is it too early for college students, or do you encourage them to go through a formal training even as young as college or high school for that matter?
I would say start as early as you can. There's nothing wrong with starting in high school. And where do you start? Well, you start by self-reflecting. You start by looking at, how do I make decisions? How do I handle conflict? How do I get along with my peers? what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What is it that I want? Where is it that I'm going? Am I doing it on purpose, or am I doing it by mistake? The more on purpose that you could be, the better it is for you. Start being your own person. Sometimes our parents may be trying to force us into a particular career, but we want to experiment and try some other things. Say, look, I want to, after school, join one of these other organizations that is what I'm thinking about and interested in. So start expanding beyond your comfort zone, taking a little bit of risk to learn about yourself, get a little bit of feedback, become part of a bigger piece of a puzzle, and start that leadership development now. The other thing you could do is start reading books, okay? It's never too early to learn about yourself and to learn about leadership in books. The leadership books that are written today, they're written, any level person at any age can read them and understand them and make sense of them. Start reading them. And read any book. I would encourage. There's not a book that I've ever read that doesn't have something to do with leadership, and that may not even mean it was a leadership title. It could be a fiction book. All of them have leadership concepts in it. So spend a lot of time reading, studying, learning leadership, learning about yourself, and learning about other people. And the sooner you do that, the better it is.
Mike, do you have, just off the top of your head, is there one specific or two books, leadership books, that you would recommend to our audience?
Well, there's a book that I call the QBQ. It's written by John Miller. It's really a very, very basic book, but, John did a great job in looking at what's called personal accountability. And he wrote a book on personal accountability, and then he made it a little bit shorter, and he calls it the QBQ, the question behind the question. So that's a book we recommend it to everybody. Everybody that goes through the leadership journey, no matter when they go through it, no matter what age, what level person, they read the QBQ. And I highly recommend it because it's a premise by which if you take that and stop blaming other people and stop putting it on everybody else and start to look at your own behavior and your own self, it'll take your career to all new levels. So that's a mandatory book that I would want everybody to read, the QBQ.
Oh, thank you.
Obviously, I wrote a book, 12 Steps of Courageous Leadership. To me, that's a very important one as well.
We absolutely need them to check that out. Can they find it on your website or on Amazon?
They can. 12 Steps for Courageous Leadership is on both Amazon and on our website. And there's a website called courageability.com. It's also on that website.
Great. Thank you. And let's ease the anxiety for our job seekers right now. They've written in with several questions, and one that comes up all the time for those that are going for entry-level positions. They want to know what employers are most interested in learning about the candidates.
That's also a great question. One of the things that they're looking at are based on what I've talked to various people, particularly from entry-level people, is how are they going to fit in? What role are they going to play? What skills, abilities, and talents can they bring to me starting day one, and will it help my organization day one? Now, does it mean you need to be an expert? No. So relax. Just breathe deeply. And are you a good writer? Are you a good communicator in writing or verbally? Do you know how good you are at it? Have you built those skills, and can you communicate how well you can use those skills to communicate to customers? So they want to know if they're going to put somebody in front of a customer or with somebody even internally, that they are going to be able to communicate to them. They want people that are trusted. They want them to be on time, dependable, will show up every day, and do what they're assigned to do and learn. They want learners, people that are there that are going to take accountability and take ownership and be able to learn and understand a concept, be able to read well, and be able to apply knowledge very quickly. And so they know that people that are just graduating don't have the actual experience of doing the job or a task. And that's why it's important to get involved in some of these other groups, because you can communicate to them that you've done something similar. So you've shown up, you've been present, you've gotten things done, you've helped others get things done, and that's what they're looking for right now. At some point in time, obviously, as your craft gets more and more skilled, they're going to want other things. But in the beginning, they want to know, are you going to work hard? Are you going to be there? Are you going to show up? And can you help their business? And can you help it grow? Can you help it be more operationally efficient? And can you explain how you'll do it?
So I hear a lot about rational attributes. What I coach my clients through is there are two different types of attributes that develop your personal brand. There's rational attributes, those that an employer looks for that you just have to have for a particular position. But then what sets you apart is emotional attributes. So is attitude, how do you see attitude, something that tends to be more of an emotional attribute that you bring to the table, playing a role in your career advancement?
Well, emotional, believe it or not, is probably the most critical element. I've worked with individuals, organizations, and teams for many years, and most people don't get don't get fired based on their technical skills. What they get fired for is because their disposition or their attitude and how they show up isn't in check. It isn't what it needs to be. And what do we mean by that? Well, over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of study on your emotional intelligence, your emotional quotient. Well, it's how do you handle conflict? How do you listen? How do you become a member of a team and participate? How do you deal with someone when there's something that's not going your way? What do you do? What behavior do you demonstrate to show up when somebody disagrees with you or somebody even agrees with you too much? When you need to be a little bit forceful, how do you do it? The more in tune you are with your emotions, how you think and how you feel, and how you apply things when things are not going your way and stressed, the better it's going to be to a customer, the more valuable you're going to be. And as a matter of fact, we started measuring those soft skill, emotional traits when they change, because what happens when they start changing and start getting more effective, what ends up happening is time is saved. And if a company can save even 15 minutes a week times every employee they have, that's massive productivity gains. And if somebody's emotions aren't in check, they're wasting time. Why? Because people are afraid to deal with them. People may not feel, oh God, their disposition or their attitude is poor. I don't even want to give them feedback because they're never going to change. Well, an employer looks at that as saying, why do I really need to go through that headache? I need somebody that can put their emotions in check, understand when their emotions are taking over and entrapping them in behavior that's ineffective, and knowing how to shift that immediately so that they show up as the most professional that they can be. Does this make sense, Ryan?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'd love to recap, take a moment and recap everything for our young professionals. If you can just kind of sum up 3 key takeaway points that you would like our young professionals to learn from this interview, what would those be?
I would say that the 3 that I would pick are: know yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How do you learn about them? How do you communicate them to others? And make decisions about what you're good at and maybe what you're not so good at and what you're learning to become better at. So the next one is learn how to build relationships. Become involved with organizations that are similar to what you're looking to learn about, so that if you're passionate about it and you join a group or an organization or a team or a bunch of individuals that are trying to achieve common goals, you're already knowing how to do that. So do that as soon as you can and use your strengths or your brand to help them out. Be passionate and courageous in everything that you do. Not every particular assignment do we love to do, but we have to do them. And so if we ourselves are coming across as being bummed out and not passionate and not enjoying it, then that transcends onto other people. So you've got to take the accountability, the courage, the discipline to show up in a way that is the best person that you can be, and be that person on a day-to-day basis. So those are three areas that if you can learn those now and build a map for yourself early, how you communicate, how you handle conflict, how you participate in a team, and you can give examples of all those, the sooner you're going to be the best leader that you can be, taking whatever organization you're part of to a new level and your entire career.
Oh, thank you so much, Mike. What a wealth of knowledge and wisdom that you've given our listeners, and I really appreciate that. I know that they will have grown for listening to this interview.
And that concludes our September 2013 interview with Mike Kublin. For more information about People Tech Coaching, please visit peopletechcoaching.com. Be sure to stay up to date with all the Rebranding You advancements by visiting my website, ryanmickley.com. Again, that's Ryan, R-Y-A-N, Mickley, M-I-C-K-L-E-Y.com. There you can sign up for my monthly personal branding newsletter and read my commentary on the topics of servant leadership, personal branding, and content marketing. I always love hearing from listeners, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can find my profile at ryanmickley.com. Thanks for tuning in.